This video is especially to our learned and respected English teachers. I have just seen a number of video prepared by our English teachers, and they brought before us the different chapters of grammar. Here one thing is very clear, that we have to point out the moot point that lies within the tenses, and we must strive for the presentation in a very simple way so that our student may not face any sort of problem while understanding them. If we allow our student to let them run into the intricacies of grammar, definitely it adversely affects. Most of the people, despite the fact that they have a very good knowledge of English, can't speak properly and even can't write properly. It is because that many a times the problems have been created by the grammatical approach that we as Indians try to adopt. We are very grammatically sensitive. This will be a different chapter, but now I must tell that the difference in between the time and tense is this. Tenses always tell us about the time, but the time doesn't tell us about the tenses. For our feasibility, we have divided the time into past, present, and future. Though, as per the words by great scientist Albert Einstein, time is an illusion. That is a different thing or a thing from the field of science. But whatever our grammarians have said, we have to follow it. So, there are further divisions brought, and it is first is the indefinite. Even today our teachers in the classroom say, oh, this is the indefinite tense. If it belongs to the present, then they will tell the student citing the examples from Hindi, or if it is in the past, then the case may be, and if it is in future, then the same. But one thing is very controversial here, that when we say it is indefinite, the modern grammarians have objected to also, because nothing is indefinite here. For example, the sun rises in the east, it rose earlier, it rises today, it will rise tomorrow also. That is, we see all the three courses of action taking place, though with the interval of the time. In the same way, if I say the Ram goes to his school, it means he went earlier also. Today he is seen, and tomorrow he will go. Though future is uncertain here, but the action takes place with a regular interval of the time. So instead of calling it as a indefinite tense, we have been told that it is the simple present, the simple past or simple future, as the case may be, because the action, if it takes place in the present, then we take it to the past, assuming it will be so in the future. But the moot point is the same. The action starts at a particular point of the time in the past, and it goes on, but with a regular interval of the time. When we switch over to the continuous tense, we say he is working. That is, the course of action took place at a particular point of the time in the past, and it is the moment of happening. He is still running. Nobody knows when he is going to put an end to his action. When we see he is running, that is, action is being taken place. If we assume the same thing in the past or the future, then they become the future continuous tense or the past continuous tense with a slight change in the use of the helping verbs. But when we switch over to perfect tenses, we say, I have just finished my work. That means the action started at a particular point of the time in the past. The moment it is finished, the speaker has to speak. Oh, I have just finished my work. Have just finished my work just now. The work is over at this point of time, and at the next GP or the next moment, the speaker has to speak out. So, perfect means the action took place in the past, but as soon as it is finished, the speaker has to pour out. When we assume the same thing in the past or future, definitely no problem. We take them to the same situation. When we switch over to perfect continuous tense, here we see that a time is defined. For example, Ram has been working for 2 hours. For 2 hours means we know or we have come to know through somebody else. The action is started at a definite point of time. It is more definite than since 2 o'clock. So it took place in the past and it is still going on. Has been doing his work. Nobody knows when it is going to be finished. So this may moot point, when it becomes clear for the student, it becomes very easiest way for the student to comprehend it. Then we can cite the number of example, because we have to understand here that the translation method is the most typical and difficult method for learning the language. We, especially the students from the northern India, had to suffer for we find ourselves unable to speak properly in English. It is because of this method, because we have been put into the intricacies of grammar or the translation. To be a translator, at least the person must have the good knowledge of the two languages. So previously there was a lot of focus on it. Then there was a slight change. A structural method came into existence. Means one sentence was given before the student, Ram does not work. Make 10 sentences, Hari does not work, Hari does not run, like that. So that too is a impediment or obstacle in the spoken English before the students. Nowadays, after the much more research in different parts of the world, it has been found that at least the child should be exposed to the communication. The communicative method will help student understand at least the primary stage of the language. Even if he speaks incorrectly today, he will get a chance to speak correctly tomorrow. But when we will throw the child into the intricacies of the grammar, definitely the child will find himself in the quagmire of these intricacies, and the complex situation arises before him, resulting that our student failed to speak properly. Or with the experience, we can say it takes a time. What is needed at the age of 20 doesn't mean at the age of 50, though at that time proper guidance may be given. Secondly, it is said anyone can learn any language in the world if he knows the 400 meanings minimum 400 meanings. They are sufficient for any language to learn except Chinese Mandarin or the Japanese, because it is said they have the pictographic script, so it is very difficult. Otherwise anybody can learn. As a student, it was my hobby to learn different languages. Luckily, I got a chance to work in different parts of the country. So I learned Assamese, I learned Nagamese, I learned Sanskrit, I learned English, I learned Hindi, and also a little German also, because German is more or less connected to our Sanskrit language. So there is nothing difficult before the students to learn or to speak. Only thing is this, that the mood points should be made clear to our students, so that they may not find themselves in trouble. Secondly, after the primary stage is over, we should give them the chance for the correction, work of correction in the language. Give some exercises they will do. If they come with the work assigned to them, so to the teachers, definitely we should try to make the points clear, because failures, as it is said, are the best pillar to the great learning or the achievement at a later stage. So the whenever any mistake is committed, it should be corrected or his attention should be drawn. Then we must move towards the advanced stage. Here, if one takes a lot of interest in language, say for example in English language, then there is a big scope in the sense, we can take an example of John Milton. He crammed 7,000 words, and in context of Shakespeare, he crammed 15,000 words. It is a very big number, great number, but their language is quite literary. Even the scholars fail to understand properly. They try to elicit the information from different methods or ways, or they apply their learned skills, etc. That is another thing. And so far as fluency is concerned, the best example is given from John F. Kennedy. It is said whenever he would speak, he would produce 436 words in a minute. This is a record. Such a great flow. And when we take an example of Dr. Radhakrishnan, he always used flowy language. He was poetic in the prose also. One example I just recollect: after much consultation and consideration, I have come to this conclusion that India is the land of the people whose profession is cultivation. This is cited. Even English people praised him, because this is poetry or the poetic flow. So this depends on the style to be developed. What I want to say is this, that we should try to make the mood points very clear to the children. Then we give them the exposure to the work in such a way that if mistake is committed, they should be removed in a very effective manner, so that they may get a chance not to commit mistakes, or learn, or rather take the mistake as the suggestion for further improvement. Otherwise, this is very difficult. Another striking point which I would like to share is this, that our teacher most of the time they teach English through the local language, or their medium is local. So it is also a very difficult point. Here I would like to praise the English medium school. At least they choose one day for the children to speak in English, because even if they speak incorrectly, at least they open their mouth. Today they are producing words not as per the grammatical rules, but tomorrow they will get them corrected. So with these things in mind, I would suggest that we should also strive for the betterment of the children, As a teacher, it is our duty to melt our personality in the pursuit of knowledge for the children, because they will enlighten each and everyone in the days coming. Thank you.